So let's have a look at audio correction. And what we're going to do here is show you a really simple method of audio correction that's going to get some really good results fast. So we need to look at aligning audio tracks to the video track. We need to look at removing background noise from our audio. We need to look at setting the volume, the bass volume of our audio. And then we need to look at setting compression, which is where we protect our audio from going too loud. We're then going to apply a little trick that's called room for vocals, and we're going to save that audio. So let's go and have a look at that. So the first thing we're going to want to do is align the audio and the video. Before we do that, let's just close down our Lumetri color window because we don't need that anymore. So we're just going to close that panel, and if we want to bring it back, we just go to Window and we scroll down to Lumetri color and switch that on, and that'll be back. So let's just close it from here, and that's just going to give us a little bit more room at the bottom. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a little bit of space by just dragging some of my boxes across a little bit, because now I'm starting to work on the audio. I need to be able to see it. Now, a couple of things we want to do is we want to press the plus key, and that's going to allow us to zoom in. And the other thing is we want to be able to see the audio track down the bottom here. So what we're going to do, here's the audio track. You can see the little peaks. We're just going to select the bottom here. I'm going to drag that down like this. And now we can see our peaks. We can see our audio, our highs and our lows. Now, sometimes if you're recording your video and your audio separately, you're going to find that the video and the audio is out of sync. So what you need to do is you need to, first of all, drag and select both the video and the audio. You want to right click, and what we're going to click is unlink. Now we can now move these two independent of each other. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom in even more. And I want to really zoom in a lot. Sometimes you only need a minute adjustment. And now what I can do, I can pick the audio up and I can move it along. And I can move it along one frame at a time. And I can move it back one frame at a time. So if you ever want to align your audio and your video and you find the voice isn't matching, that is how you do it visually. So a handy tip you can use for aligning audio is at the beginning of your recording, if you just clap like this, when you go into moving and aligning your audio track, you'll be able to see that the clap, the physical connection, and the audio, the noise is slightly out, and then you can just move them along by unlinking like we showed. Remember to link your audio back up once you're happy. You don't want unlinked audio because that's going to do some really messy stuff when it comes to editing. So make sure you link that back up. So what we want to look at now is removing noise. So we're in a recording environment and we're going to have some background noise. So let's go and have a look at how we're going to remove noise using Premiere Pro and Adobe Audition. So the first thing we're going to do is select them, and we make sure that they're linked again. So we're just going to hit link. So now we know they're linked. And what we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to click Edit Clip in Adobe Audition, and that will open up Adobe Audition with our audio track in there. This is why we use them together, because no other software has this ability to work with the video and the audio. Well, there's some software that has plugins, but it's expensive. So when you use free software, you don't get this integration, which is going to really improve the speed of your productivity when it comes to editing. And editing, when it comes to video production, is where a lot of the labor cost actually is. So let's go and edit that clip in Adobe Audition. Now here is a sample file, and I've just recorded raw audio in this. So we've got an area where I'm quiet and we've got some background noise. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scrub back to here, and I'm just going to play this for you so you've got a reference point. right at the beginning of the recording. So now we've got some audio recording to do. So that was just a blank space to check for background noise. Now we're just going to have to see what else we can do to improve the audio. So now I'm going to speak quite quiet, and then I'm going to go quite loud because we need to have a check to see if we can compress and improve the audio as well as increase the gain. And I'm going to go quiet again on the bottom end. So let's see how this all comes out as a recording. So I'm going to stop that there. The very first thing we need to do is remove noise, and there's a very simple procedure. So what we want to do is we want to find an area where there was quiet in the recording. So when we're recording, make sure we always record a section where we have ambient noise in the background. And we want an even ambient noise. So if you've got a dog barking, you don't want to use that for your noise reduction. What you're trying to remove is just the natural noise in your background that is there continuously from equipment, from the environment. If you try to use noise reduction on really loud, invasive noises, what's actually going to happen is you're going to ruin the audio, because it's going to look at that level of volume and that pitch, and it's going to think you're trying to remove that. And then if your voice is close to that, it will remove that as well, or damage the audio in your voice. So typically what we're going to do here is we're going to just left click and drag on this quiet patch here. So let's just play that to see what we've got. And as we can see, we've got a little bit of noise there. Now what we're going to do, we need to capture this as a noise print. So what we do is we go up to Effects. We're going to go down to Noise Reduction. We're going to Capture Noise Print. So let's click on that. So that's just asking us if we want to continue, and we do. So we'll click OK. Now we've got a noise print. We're going to go back into Effects again. We're going to go to Noise Reduction, and we're going to go to Noise Reduction Process. And then it's going to ask us to capture noise print or use the currently set noise print, which is what we're going to do. And then what we're going to do is we can see that the green essentially is the noise. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring that up to the yellow until they merge. And this is just going to set the amount of reduction. Now sometimes when you do this, it's going to go a little bit metallic and clangy, and you can bring it back here when you're playing. If we go there, it's really tight now. If we go noise reduction 100%, I'd suggest you just come off a little bit. You don't want it to be too aggressive. See how it goes for you, and just play with this until you're happy. Now what we're going to have to do is click outside of that selection, and we want to right click in this window. So let's just move this aside. We want to right click, want to select all, because we want to apply this noise print to the whole of the audio, and then that's going to remove those background noises that we captured from all of the audio. So let's apply that. So now what we should have when we play here is a silent patch. And if we look down here on our levels indicator, we can see that there is no audio playing. So that's the noise reduction complete. So now what we need to do is we need to set our volume. So we need to pick up the lowest parts of our voice and raise that. So let's go and do that. So now what we're going to be doing is we want to come over here to the effects rack. And this is where we're going to be working now for the rest of this audio management. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this little arrow, and then we're going to add amplitude and compression. And all we want to do is amplify. Now you can amplify here, but any adjustment you make here is a permanent change to the audio file. Whereas here, we can come back in and edit it later. So this is where we want to be doing our editing. Now, typically, I know my studio, I'm going to raise this to about 8. What I want you to actually look at is not the audio. What I want you to look at is down here. Now, this here is where the audio was originally, and this is where it is after the change. So I like the bottom of my audio to sit around 12 or 18. So that's where I like it to be. I'm seeing that this is jumping up around 12 or 18, so I'm quite happy with that. I might pull that down a tiny bit, so let's just take a little bit off the top of that. So I've taken it down to about 8 on this. You can click in here and actually put your level that you want, so you can put 8 exactly, but I'm happy just to use the sliders most of the time. We can see now that our levels, where they are. So that's what we're working on. Now at the beginning of the recording, we've got some background noise, some large noise, so we're not really worried about that. What we're worried about here, or not even so much worried, what we want to look at here is the increase on the bass. When we scrub along, we're going to get to this part here, which was very loud, and now we're really starting to clip the audio. We've got some red bits coming through occasionally, so if we just keep our eye on the levels here, see a little flick of red, that tells us we lost some audio fidelity there. So what we want to do is, now we've set our volume, we want to now compress our audio. So we lifted the bass up, and now we want to pull the top down. So then we're going to get a nice audio sandwich, a nice bottom layer and a nice top layer. And then our audio is going to sit in between. So let's go and compress our audio. So what we can do now is we can just close this amplifier window. We haven't closed the actual effect, we just closed the editing window. So what we want to do now is we want to add another effect. So this time we're going to go into multi-band compression. So we're going to go amplitude, compression, and we're going to go down to multi-band compression. So let's bring that tool up. Now, handy little tip for you, if you want to just select by left clicking and dragging along, you can select a bit of audio, and then when you press play, that is going to loop. Now, I've still got the audio silent, so it's not in the recording, because I don't actually want you to be distracted by the audio. I want you to actually look at the graphical representations, because that is the better way to measure your audio improvements. Now, what's been happening is I'm pressing play and then it's stopping. So if I click on this loop playback, this little icon down here, if I now press play, that's going to keep looping for me. So now I can work on the audio directly. The first thing I'm going to do with this compressor is I'm going to increase the attack time. So I want that down to 1 microsecond. I'm going to go to the next one and do the same all the way along. So now we've set the attack time to 1. Now what that means is we want this effect to be very rapid and to attack and enter really quickly. So I'm not going to go into compression too much, but what I am going to do is just show you how to set this so that you can start getting some good audio effects. So that's the first setting. Then what we've got here is we've got the bass, the lower mid-range, the upper mid-range, and then we've got what we traditionally call the treble, the high-pitched noises. So what I'm going to do is if I drag this down here, let me just reselect a section, just going to hover the mouse over and drag it in, so we've got the audio section. So what I've just done here is I'm telling it if the bass goes over this, I want you to take it out. And that's going to even my voice up a little bit. It's going to take out any overly bass section. Now you're going to see most of the volume in my voice is in this range because this is the highest. But what I want to do is I just want to bring that down to around 12, 18 to stop it peaking too much. And I like to take it a little bit lower because that part of my voice is quite strong and I like to bring that down. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this one now and I'm just going to drop this around here. I want to keep this section of my voice at a certain volume level as well. And then right on the end, we're going to drop this down really low. Now we've dropped these down really low because we don't actually need them in our voice. This is equivalent to what is called a high cut or a low cut filter. We're actually taking out some of the audio from the bass and from the really high treble. So now if we go back down and look down here, we can see we're hitting at 18 and we're not going above it. It's keeping quite a narrow range. as we can see. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to move it along a little bit so we can see the application here. So now we're going there. Now I could probably leave a little bit more room in this one. So I'm going to just let a little bit more voice through. That's just from experience. So now I'm hitting 18 to 12. It's sort of 18 is the bottom, or 24 to 18 is the bottom, and 18 to 12 is the top of the decibels along here. And that's what we're looking at, this part here, and we're measuring that. And when we're doing our audio, don't rely on your headphones. Don't rely on your speakers. This is what you should be relying on, is you should be looking at the graphical representation and using that. Now, another thing we need to do now is make room for vocals. This is a little tool within Adobe Audition that's going to just improve our voice a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to close that here with the X. It hasn't switched it off. It's still showing green. If you want to hear the difference between them, you can literally switch these off, and that's going to help you to hear the difference. You can also switch all this off, all of them off in one go, so you can see how the audio has gone from the original to the edited version. What we want to do here is add another effect, room for vocals. So where do we find that? So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to Special. We're going to go down to Mastering. We're going to click on that. And then we're going to get this drop down here. And what we want to do is make room for vocals. And what this is going to do is just lift up the bass a little bit and just move some of the top end of the voice. And it's just going to create a little bit of richness in the voice. Now, I like to just ease it off a little bit every time I use it. For my voice, have a play and see how you get on. But once you've done that, we've pretty much done the whole process. It really is as simple as that. What we would now do is we just apply that audio here, and we can save it. But before we do, actually, let me just take this little sample here, and I'm going to play it without, and then I'm going to play it with. So let's see the difference. So first of all, let's play without. Be quite quiet. And then I'm going to go quite loud. We can do to improve the audio. So now I'm going to speak quite quiet. And then I'm going to go quite loud. We can do to improve. And now let's play it with. We can do to improve the audio. So now I'm going to speak quite quiet. And then I'm going to go quite loud. We can do to improve the audio. So now I'm going to speak. So hopefully you can hear the difference in that audio. We haven't done loads of changes. Adobe Audition is much more powerful than this. There's so many more things you can do, but this is a beginner's guide, and this is just showing you how to get to good audio very, very quickly. So what we would do now is we would click out so that we're not selecting part of this, right click, select all, and now what we're going to do is we're going to apply that, and that means we've actually just changed the audio file now, and you can see it does actually look like a completely different graphic now. The lower volumes have been lifted, but we're not allowing the high points to go too high, and we can see that by looking at our decibel range down the side here. So if we look across, we can see we've set it about 8 at the highest, but the audio that was quiet maybe we've just brought up to 18, 24 to 18. So that's a good range for your audio. Once we've done that, all we have to do is File and Save. And it's going to ask us, and we're going to click OK. And now, when we go back to Adobe Premiere Pro, that altered file has been reloaded back in.